Chapter 1. The $3,160 Bill of Humiliation. They told me I should be grateful to even sit at their table, then handed me a $3,160 bill and laughed while I paid it. They thought humiliating the adopted girl would be their family's favorite joke, but that night the joke started dying. Because the same woman they mocked was about to inherit everything they worshipped, and their lies, worth $800,000, would burn in a courtroom for everyone to see. My name is Marissa Hale, and this is how I stopped being their burden and became their judgment. The leather check presenter lands in front of me like a verdict, the weight of it heavier than it should be, the edge nudging my wrist as if urging me to open it. I flip it with 2 fingers and the numbers blur, then snap into focus. $3,860. The light from the chandelier scatters across the glossy paper, and I feel my face heat the way a stovetop goes from dark to angry red. Around me, the low roar of Belmonts at peak hour silverware kissing plates, the soft clink of crystal laughter that sounds expensive. Across the table, Victoria adjusts the cuff of her silk blouse and says that this table is for family, not adopted girls. She smiles without showing teeth, the kind of smile that says she learned early how to wound in a way that looks like charm. Gregory lets out a short, breathy laugh, the kind that is mostly air and approval. Patricia tilts her head as if amused by a child's misunderstanding of adult rules. Kenneth drums his fingers against his water glass like a metronome set to disbelief. A server glides by with a tray of martinis and gives me the briefest glance there, and gone the micro-flinch of someone who has witnessed this kind of scene before and learned to keep moving. I slide my card from the slit in my clutch, my hands doing the work my brain refuses. The leather is buttery, my name embossed on a minimal gold plate, Hale Creative Co. on a business card tucked beside it, the little proof that I built something no one here ever helped me build. My card edges forward as if of its own will. The server takes it with the kind of gentle professionalism that feels like pity disguised as service. The machine chirps, the screen blinks, and then the word appears. Approved. The sound rings like a gavel. I taste metal in the back of my mouth. I whisper to myself to keep breathing, to count the inhales like a diver on a long descent. I tell my shoulders to drop. I tell my eyes to stop searching for a way out. Victoria begins describing a property in Palm Springs as if we did not all just watch a financial mugging. Gregory asks about cap rates. Patricia asks if the server can bring a different balsamic for her arugula because this one tastes thin. Kenneth asks the waiter what the most expensive port is, then changes his mind and says, "Bring both, and we will compare," as if I am not here, as if the check did not silently declare me a member of this family, only when there is a cost to be absorbed. Across the table, 1 seat removed from Patricia, Evelyn watches without comment. Her spine is needle straight, her white hair set like a crown that requires no ceremony. There is power in the way she holds a fork. She has the look of someone who has been waiting patiently for a train that she knows will arrive on her schedule and no one else's. Her eyes meet mine, and they do not soften. They sharpen. She reaches for her phone under the table, touches the screen, lifts it a few inches, and her lips form the words, "It is time." Soundless, precise. She does not look away until I blink first. I sign the slip with small motions so the pen does not tremble. My signature comes out steady and unfamiliar, a version of me that does not feel everything all at once. I place the leather folder on top of the linen and align it with the edge like I am creating order where none exists. A faint smear of Cabernet stains the rim of my water glass. The server returns, thanks me in a soft voice that sounds like mercy, and disappears into the river of navy suits and sequined sleeves. For a second, the room doubles. I am 28 at a table in Seattle, but I am also 6 in a county shelter in 2003, sneakers 2 sizes too big. A plastic tag with my name written in block letters sitting on a vinyl couch that sticks to the back of my legs. A woman with powdery perfume is asking me if I like dogs or cats. A man is asking if I am a good helper. No one asks me if I can swim or if I wake up at night from dreams so loud I think they are real. Someone snaps a Polaroid and tells me to look happy. I fix my face the way I will learn to fix it for the next 20 years. The scene slides away as quickly as it came, like a fish flashing near the surface, then vanishing into dark water. Back at the table, Patricia is listing the names of donors she sat next to at a luncheon. Gregory is describing a golf trip. Kenneth is showing Victoria a photo of a car he thinks he deserves. When I clear my throat and say that my studio just landed a national account that it will cover 6 months of salaries if I hire right and guard the margins. Patricia nods at the air and asks Kenneth about his bonus. I swallow the rest of the sentence like a pill that went down wrong. The scent of charred ribeye and melted butter pools in the air. Somewhere behind me, a birthday song breaks out off key, and sincere, a tiny country of joy I am not allowed to enter. The maitre d' stops at our table to say he hopes the evening has been lovely, his eyes flicking to me for a half heartbeat the way a passerby checks for a pulse without touching skin. Victoria tells him everything was exquisite. Patricia asks whether the truffle oil was domestic or imported. He answers and moves on, and the moment folds itself back into the fabric of the room. I gather my clutch slide, my chair back with care, make sure the legs do not scrape the floor. Gregory tells me I am making a scene. I apologize because in this family you apologize when you stand up. Evelyn says nothing, which is somehow louder. I walk past the raw bar, past the wall of bottles lit like stained glass, past a couple holding hands across the table like a secret. The cool draft near the revolving door finds the sweat at the base of my neck and reminds me I am a person with a body and a choice. Outside, the night is damp and humming. Seattle in late summer has a way of holding on to heat even after the sun drops the sidewalks, exhaling what they kept during the day. The valet stand is a bright island under a cone of light. A woman in a cobalt dress laughs on a phone and says it was perfect. It was exactly perfect, then notices me and tucks the smile away like something private. I stand near the hedge where the shadow is deepest and start to breathe like I learned in a free class at a community studio that smelled like eucalyptus and old wood, in for 4, hold for 4, out for 6, until my heart stops sprinting. My phone buzzes in my hand, a vibration that feels like a tiny alarm. I swipe it open, and the message sits there without apologies or punctuation. Next month you can pay again. The sentence is a blade that cuts clean. I stare at it until the screen goes dark and my own reflection stares back. I look like someone I almost recognize, a woman wearing a dress she bought on sale and had tailored because she does not have time to return things, a woman who sends invoices late at night and forgets to eat lunch, a woman who left a job that paid on time to build something that felt like hers. Through the glass I can see our table. Victoria leans in to say something to Kenneth and he laughs too loudly. Patricia lifts her wine glass to catch the light and check the clarity, then sets it down and dabs at the corner of her mouth, though nothing is there. Gregory checks his watch, even though time bends for people like him. Evelyn sits perfectly still in the space she has carved out of the evening sovereign and small all at once. For a second her eyes find me through the reflection layered on reflection, and I have the uncanny sense that a thread has been thrown between us and pulled taut. The valet asks if I need my car. I shake my head. I need a minute. He nods with the kind of understanding that does not ask for details. Behind him, a sleek black sedan pulls to the curb, and a man in a dark suit steps out. Opens the back door, then looks toward the entrance like he knows who he is waiting for. I think, without knowing why, that everything is lining up, that something is moving under the surface where I cannot see it, yet the way a ferry noses through fog toward dock lights, it trusts are there. The door turns, a slow carousel of faces and coats and conversation, and the night air tilts a degree cooler. My phone lights again in my palm, the same sender, no new words, only the previous line, resent, as if repetition can make it true. Next month you can pay again. I let the screen go black, and for once I do not answer. I look back through the window one more time, and I catch Evelyn rising from her chair, one hand resting lightly on the table, as if to steady an earthquake that no one else feels. Then I step farther into the shadow by the hedge and wait, because sometimes waiting is the only move you can make before the next one appears. Chapter 2. The Billionaire's Quiet Plan. I watch her rise inside the glass like a figure lifted by a tide only she can feel. Evelyn moves toward the door with that unhurried precision that makes other people speed up without knowing why. The sedan at the curb shifts in the lane, as if it has been waiting all along. I step out of the hedge's shadow, and the night folds around me like a curtain. The door opens, and the restaurant's cool light spills over the sidewalk. Evelyn meets me halfway between marble and asphalt. Evelyn, I say, and it sounds smaller than I meant. She takes my forearm, not a grip, more like a calibration, and her eyes search my face the way a doctor listens to a heart. You did not answer their message, she says. Good. Now listen to me. I nod because that is the only thing my body knows how to do. She tilts her head toward the sedan. Thomas waits with the door open, the interior soft and dark. We are going to finish dinner, Evelyn says, but not as they imagine. I need you to be still and let the room reveal itself. I manage a yes. I want to ask what she means. I want to ask a dozen questions, but she turns and I follow because I have learned to move when doors open. Before we cross the threshold, a different picture overlays the night, crisp as a slide changing in a projector. Morning light on glass, the sweep of Lake Washington at the edge of a window, a conference table polished to a mirror. Dr. Hines in a navy suit, his voice even as a metronome. He says, Ms. Crawford, I am going to ask you a series of questions to document your capacity. He does not say prove because the camera on the tripod does that without help. He asks the date, the year, the city, the name of the governor, the name of her company, the drug in phase 3 that will change a narrow corner of oncology if the trial data holds. Evelyn answers like a woman running a finger along a familiar corridor of keys. She corrects him once gently when he mistransposes a number and he laughs a quick professional apology, then notes that her insight and judgment appear intact. 2 witnesses wait along the wall, a paralegal I do not know, and a woman from reception who has that calm only people who see problems all day can learn. Walter Green stands at the head of the table, a stack of papers squared to the grain and a fountain pen that looks like it has already signed 100 lives into being. He says, for the record, this is the Revocable Living Trust and pour-over will for Evelyn Opal Crawford. He says video recorded execution in the presence of 2 disinterested witnesses and a notary. He says we will fund the sub-trust for immediate access, and we will file an emergency motion to expedite probate matters, if needed, due to terminal diagnosis, pancreatic cancer, stage 4. He does not glance at me when he says terminal. He looks at Evelyn and she looks back like 2 pilots reviewing their checklist. She signs slow enough to be ceremonial, fast enough to read as ordinary. The notary stamps, the witnesses write their names. Walter notes the time and the city. Dr. Hines powers down the camera and says, Ms. Crawford, you passed my test better than I did. Evelyn says you will be on time for your own appointment's next visit, and he laughs again and says, yes, ma'am. The overlay lifts. We are back in the doorway to Belmont's. Music like a restrained heartbeat under the talk. Evelyn's hand on my arm again, light as a map. Inside our table waits exactly as we left it, except for one difference I notice only because I am looking for something to be different. At a 2 top 3 tables away sits Walter, jacket off, tie, loosened a glass of sparkling water, sweating rings onto a square coaster. He looks like a man eating alone after a long day. He is not eating. He looks at me once, a glance that says we are ready, then studies his menu as if it could teach him something new. We reach the table. Patricia says that she thought I had left to avoid embarrassment. Gregory says that disappearing during the check is tacky. Victoria says, are we done with theatrics or do we need to order caviar to make the point stick? Kenneth says nothing, his eyes on the black sedan through the glass. Evelyn remains standing. She places her napkin on the table with a neat fold. She touches the back of her chair with the same motion she used to steady her empire. Then she says, tonight will conclude differently. Patricia says, Mother, sit down. People are watching. Evelyn says, good. I prefer witnesses. Victoria laughs bright and sharp and says that if this is about the bill, your charity case took care of it, Mother, and she has the approved slip to prove it. Evelyn looks at Victoria like she is looking at a problem she has already solved. She says, as of this evening, the entirety of my estate transfers into instruments that designate Marissa Hale as sole beneficiary. She does not raise her voice. She does not need to. The room adjusts to her cadence the way a theater leans toward a stage whisper. Gregory says that this is absurd. Patricia says that this is a stunt. Kenneth says that this is not legal. Evelyn says Walter and does not turn her head. Walter says already filed, ma'am, and his voice carries just enough to touch the edge of the table and fall. He stands, nods to the Major D, and walks toward the exit like any other man with a train to catch. Patricia says, Mother, you cannot be serious. You are not well. This is undue influence. Evelyn says, I am dying, not confused. Her face is a mask of light and bone, her eyes bright as if lit from something warm inside. She says terminal diagnosis this spring. She says staged and confirmed by 3 specialists. She says the evaluation video you see if you contest what I'm about to say would embarrass your attorney. Victoria says that Marissa must have tricked her. Victoria says that I have been circling like a vulture. Victoria says that she will see me in court because the state does not let little girls from shelters steal dynasties. Evelyn says, sit, Victoria, or I will make something you value vanish with a call. Victoria sits. Her jaw works like a hinge that needs oil. Gregory tries a different tactic. He leans back, crosses his arms, and says that family matters should not be handled in public. Evelyn says then, you should not have made a spectacle of charging a child for dinner. He says that we raised her. Evelyn says, and were paid. The server passing with a tray hesitates a half-second hitch that tells me he heard. Patricia puts her hand to her chest, the way actresses do in old films, and says that she has always loved me. Evelyn says you loved control. There is a difference. I am still standing. I do not trust my knees. I say, Evelyn. She looks at me, and something in her gaze breaks my breath into measure. She says I chose you because you chose yourself when no one else would. She says I am not rescuing you. I am honoring what you built with nothing and no one. Kenneth finally finds words. He says that this will look bad. The board will panic. The market will smell blood. Evelyn smiles. It is small and real. She says the market has never been my mother. The board will adjust. The science does not care about your panic. The server arrives with a bottle of port and 2 small glasses and looks unsure. Patricia tells him to pour. Evelyn says not for me. The server nods and retreats with relief. I rest my fingers against the back of my chair and feel the grain under the lacquer. It feels like a line in a map where new territories begin. Evelyn says I will not speak long. Then she does exactly that. She says that the instruments are complete and that the executors understand her wishes. She says that there will be a subtrust for immediate access so that I will not wait for strangers to grant permission to breathe. She says that if anyone at this table chooses lawsuits, that is their right, but she has prepared for every possible angle with the kind of documentation that makes judges impatient with theatrics. She says, and I hear the patience in it, I am tired of waiting for people to be kind. Patricia says this will kill you. Evelyn says I am already dying. Let me use what is left. The words are cool water poured over a fire that thought it was unquenchable. Gregory's jaw shifts, a weather system moving behind a face. He says that he will call his lawyer tonight. Evelyn says do. Tell him to watch a video first. Victoria leans forward, eyes bright with a heat that is not light. She says that I have rehearsed this, that I am a con artist in thrift store silk, that I will spend everything in a year and end with nothing. Evelyn does not look at her. She looks at me. She says, you will hire, you will learn, you will keep receipts. You will make better mistakes than the people who broke you. I nod because I do not have a better gesture. Hope sits in my mouth like a new taste. It is clean and unfamiliar. The table is quiet in that way a field goes quiet when a storm decides whether to split or pass. Somewhere near the bar, someone laughs big and unembarrassed. Somewhere behind me, plates clatter and are stacked in even towers. Time remembers itself. Evelyn rests her palm on the table. She says dinner is over. Pay your share if you plan to eat here again. She does not look at me when she says it. She does not need to. I move my chair in not to sit, but to anchor. Patricia whispers to Gregory, and his mouth stiffens. Kenneth stares at his phone like it might hatch instructions. Victoria watches me with the concentration of a hunter who just learned the forest belongs to someone else. Evelyn turns and walks toward the door. I follow at a distance, measured in heartbeats. The maitre d' steps aside in a gesture that feels like the kind of respect only one, never given. Outside, the air is cooler than it was an hour ago. Thomas opens the car and Evelyn eases in. She looks up at me, and for the first time tonight there is a softness, not a retreat, more like a welcome. Come with me, she says, and it is not a question. I slide into the seat beside her. The door shuts with a quiet sound that reminds me of a book closing on the last line of a chapter. The city lights begin to draw lines across the windows as we pull away. My phone buzzes once, then stops. I do not look. I fold my hands together to keep from shaking and let the hum of the road hold everything I cannot yet say. Chapter 3. The Stolen Childhood Fund. Thomas pulls through the gates at Madison Park, and the cedar hedges part to reveal glass and shadow and the dark shimmer of the lake behind the house. Inside, the air smells like lemon oil and quiet. Evelyn walks without hurry, but I can see the tiredness peeking through the seams now that the room no longer requires her to be marble. Thomas disappears and returns with tea that breathes steam into the dim light. Walter is already waiting in the study jacket on the chairback sleeves rolled once a banker's lamp painting green on paper. He gestures to the table. Stacks of folders are squared to the edge tabs neat enough to calm a storm. He says my name and then says to sit. I do. The leather of the chair is cool through my dress, and my hands do that tremble I thought I had outrun in the car. Walter slides the first folder toward me and opens it to a photocopy that looks older than it is. This is the trust your parents set up in 2003, he says, funded at $800,000 to be used for your care, education, health support. He taps the next page, a letter from a law firm in Oregon, with the tidy condolence phrases wrapped around the practical parts. The words blur for a second. I blink them back into legibility. There is my name in block letters. There is an account number that repeats like a drumbeat across a dozen statements. Walter lays out the statements in a grid. He points with a capped pen. Transfers from the trust into a joint account controlled by Gregory and Patricia Crawford begin within 60 days of the adoption finalizing. You will see disbursements labeled Enrichment Summer Program Medical. Those are not the bulk. He moves to a highlighted line. Jaguar purchase, $83,000. Tuscany travel package, $22,000. Victoria's private academy tuition, Kenneth's college tuition and fees. Note the memo field on these two. It reads Family Fund. Kenneth's name stares up from the bursar receipt in type so clean it could cut. It is not a copy from a phone in bad light. It is original, sharp, preserved. My throat tightens and then cools. I hear my own voice and it is steady. So Kenneth knew. Walter nods once. He signed a payment plan addendum his sophomore year. The signature is his. We matched it with his bank signature card. I am not speculating. Evelyn sits on the arm of the chair beside me like a general inspecting a map. She does not touch the paper. She looks at the lines as if they were human decisions, which they are. How much is left? I ask, then correct it. How much should be left? Walter turns a page in a binder and a clean spreadsheet faces me. Columns for principal interest accrued at a conservative rate, offsets for reasonable expenses during childhood that he credits even though the documentation is thin. The total at the bottom hums like an engine. With conservative compounding and credit for legitimate care, he says, the restitution target is approximately $2.6 million. The number does not knock me back. It lands with the weight of something that should have been obvious but was deliberately obscured. I picture the slips I signed to take on student loans, while someone else used the money meant for me to buy a convertible. It is almost funny in the dry way that jokes are funny when they happen to other people. When they happen to you, they are simply a theft with good manners. How do we prove motive? I ask. Walter smiles the way lawyers smile when someone asks the right question. We do not need motive to prove misappropriation. We need a paper trail, which we have. We also have concealment behavior. For example, this email from Patricia to their accountant, instructing him to code certain expenses as household instead of education to avoid annual reporting to the trustee. Sloppy, useful. He slides another printout across the table. The subject line is vague out of habit. The body is very clear. My name is there not as a person, but as a budget category. Evelyn exhales as if releasing a small stone she has been pressing into her palm. You see, she says softly, you suffered twice, in rooms and on paper. How do we proceed? I ask, and the shape of the question steadies me. Walter sits, not because he is tired, but because explanation prefers a chair. Tonight we issue litigation hold letters. Tomorrow morning we file a civil claim in King County for misappropriation and conversion. We will request preservation of all electronic communications and banking records. We will ask for an accounting. If they delete anything, it will be a problem for them. If the district attorney wants to look at it later, that is their lane, not ours. For now, we get your money back. The phone on the edge of the table vibrates. My name lights my screen, then fades. It rings again. Gregory. He tends to call until someone complies. I meet Evelyn's eyes. She nods once, and the nod carries authority. I answer and tap speaker. Marissa, Gregory says, his voice tight with the effort of being controlled. That performance tonight. Shameful. You have no idea what you are stepping into. I have some idea, I say. We raised you, he says. You owe us. This is how family works. We feed you for years, you feed us when it is time. You were paid to, I say, and the quiet after the sentence is the kind that comes after a pane of glass breaks. You took money, meant for me, and spent it on your vacations and your cars and your children. You did not feed me, you fed your appetite. Do not get clever with me, he says, and the old sharpness bleeds into his measured tone. You will regret aligning with that old woman. She is not thinking clearly. Evelyn leans forward. Gregory, she says, clear and cool. I am clearer than you have been in 20 years. I will be happy to play a video for you in court. He inhales as if he might argue. Then the line clicks. He has found the edge of his own bravado. Walter locks his phone and sets it down like an object without power. Good dear, he says. He is on record. We will have your carrier pull the call log later to support the timeline. The room breathes in a new direction. Thomas appears with fresh tea and a plate with crackers and cheese, as if he is reminding us we are human bodies as well as cases. Evelyn stands, then sits again, and for the first time tonight she lets her hand rest on the arm of the chair for longer than a second. Walter opens a final folder. The email header is a scarlet flag. The logo at the top is a magazine that traffics in scandal and half-truths. The sender is Victoria's personal account. The recipient is a string attached to a name I have seen in bylines. Jennifer Cole, I say. Walter nods. She pitched a story this afternoon. Gold digger manipulates dying billionaire. Standard fare. The pitch was accepted within an hour. The invoice was $15,000. We have the invoice and the transfer receipt. Victoria used a family office account, not her personal card. Again sloppy. Again useful. I feel the anger like a clean sheet pulled tight. It does not make me shake. It smooths me. How do we deploy it? I ask. We build a narrative of coordinated defamation to undermine a lawful transfer. Walter says. We do not start with it. We let them bury themselves, and we present it as context when they claim undue influence. Also, we prepare a press conference. Controlled, brief, evidence forward, not a brawl. Evelyn closes her eyes for 2 seconds, opens them with intent. Tomorrow afternoon, she says. Downtown. We will not ask for permission to speak. We will bring receipts and let gravity do the rest. Do we involve a PR lead, I ask? Walter gives a small tilt of his head. I have someone on call who understands when to say nothing and when to say 3 sentences that end conversations. He will meet us in the morning. He begins to stack the documents back into their folders with that careful speed of a person who has practiced this choreography for years. He slides a short document toward me. Sign here to authorize filing the civil claim and the litigation holds. It gives me standing to act on your behalf as claimant. I sign. My hand is steady. The pen leaves a dark line that does not waver. I date it. I print my name. The act is small and not small. Evelyn reaches for my wrist, and her fingers are cooler than the tea. You did not ask for this fight, she says. But you will fight it well. We are not punishing them. We are correcting the record. Thomas clears his throat at the doorway. Do you need anything else before the morning? He asks. Sleep, Evelyn says, and the word sounds like both a wish and an order. Marissa will take the guest room at the end of the hall. The windows look at the water. It helps. I stand and gather the edge of my composure like a shawl. Walter hands me a copy of the hold letter so I will recognize the language if it lands in my inbox. He puts the rest into a slim case and clicks it shut. He looks at me with the kind of professional kindness that does not overreach. We will move fast, he says. They will panic. Do not respond to any messages tonight. Let us drive the tempo. I nod. My phone vibrates again, a text bubble preview from a number I do not know. The first words are not polite. I lock the screen without reading the rest. In the hallway, the floor glows softly. The guest room is large in the way that makes you want to make yourself small. I set my clutch on the dresser and stand at the window. Lake Washington holds the moon in broken pieces and returns it whole. I press my forehead to the cool glass for a breath and feel the day move through me and out again. Behind me, the room is quiet except for the tiny sound of the house settling. Somewhere in the distance, a boat engine coughs and fades. The anger is still there, but it has shape now. It has edges I can grip without cutting my hands. I whisper into the dark that I will not let them write me back into silence. The night does not answer. It does not need to. In the morning, there will be lights and microphones and paper that cannot pretend anymore. I close the curtain halfway and let the lake keep watch. Chapter 4. The viral justice morning slips through the curtain like a soft verdict, pale gold and mercilessly honest. When I step into the kitchen, Thomas already has coffee waiting, dark and clean. He looks like he has not slept but has no intention of admitting it. Evelyn sits at the table near the window silk scarf tied around her hair, a stack of papers beside her, a phone on speaker. Walter's voice comes through clear, efficient. The press conference is set for 1 o'clock at the downtown office, he says. Local outlets to national. We control the feed. The live stream will push to multiple platforms. Hashtag protocol will follow the firm's template. Evelyn lifts her eyes to me. Marissa will speak briefly, she says, like 3 sentences, no more. Understood, Walter replies. The capacity video and the trust timeline will lead. We'll include bank evidence of misuse and the article payment trail. I've pre-cleared the clips with the legal team. It's tight. Evelyn thanks him, ends the call, and folds her hands. They are going to be vicious, she says. You don't defend yourself from lies by shouting louder. You put truth on a table and let gravity do the rest. I'm ready, I say, though my stomach twists. She studies me. You think you're ready. You will be when it starts. The drive downtown takes 40 minutes. Reporters cluster like a tide near the glass building that bears the Crawford Biotech logo. The security line glints with badges. Walter meets us in the lobby, crisp suit, small smile that hides a furnace. Everything's in motion, he says. Our TRO was accepted this morning. If anyone from the other side disrupts, they can be removed immediately. Do not engage. Let me or security handle it. Evelyn nods once. I intend to engage only with the truth. The conference room on the 20th floor is bright enough to sting. Microphones lined like small soldiers, cameras blinking, red cables coiled on the carpet. Rows of chairs hold press from every major outlet. A woman from the firm adjusts the volume levels and counts down. Walter steps to the podium. Thank you for coming, he begins, voice steady. Ms. Crawford wishes to make a statement regarding recent media speculation. He introduces the evidence with the rhythm of a closing argument. The capacity video appears on a screen behind him. Evelyn, in that morning light, answers Dr. Hines' questions with perfect recall, calm, unhurried. The room stays quiet, except for the mechanical hum of recording. When the clip ends, Walter lists the facts, date of execution, witnesses, notary, emergency motion. He moves to the trust misuse, the $800 $1,000, diverted the $2.6 million, owed the receipts with my name reduced to a line item. He finishes with the payment from Victoria to Jennifer Cole, the transfer receipt glowing on the screen. Evelyn steps forward. Her voice carries without strain. You have heard lies about my mind, she says. Now you have seen the truth of it. I am dying. I am not confused. What I did to correct a cruelty that should never have been allowed to grow. The documents prove where the money went and who profited. I will not debate morality with those who have none. She glances at me. It is my cue. I walk to the podium, heart steady in its refusal to speed. The lights are hot on my face. I never wanted money, I say. I wanted family. I wanted to belong somewhere that didn't make me pay admission every time I walked into the room. The silence after is thick, respectful. Someone clicks a camera. Another starts a live stream comment feed. I can see phones lifted, the reflection of my own face, small and bright on screens. From the back of the room, a door bursts open. The security detail shifts forward instinctively. Victoria's voice pierces the air before her body fully enters it. This is a setup, she shouts. She's brainwashing our mother. She's stealing from us. Walter signals the guard, but Evelyn lifts her hand slightly. Let her talk, she says. Victoria storms down the aisle, her heels loud on the carpet, her hair slightly wild as if she dressed in anger instead of a mirror. Cameras swing toward her. We earned that money raising her, she screams. We gave her everything. She should be grateful. The room gasps in one collective breath. A reporter near the front leans forward. "So you admit you were paid to raise her?" he asks. For a heartbeat, Victoria freezes, realizing the shape of what she just said. Then she stammers something about semantics, about intention, but it is too late. The phones catch everything. The live stream does not blink. Her voice echoes raw and irreversible. Security approaches. Walter steps between them, calm as stone. "Ms. Crawford," he says to Victoria, "there is a temporary restraining order in place. You are in violation. If you continue, we will pursue contempt." Victoria turns on him. "You're part of this scam," she spits. Evelyn's tone cuts through the noise. "Enough. You have embarrassed yourself and everyone who shares your name. Leave." The guards escort Victoria out. Reporters murmur, fingers flying across keyboards. Walter signals for the next clip, a side-by-side of the transfer receipt and the publication timestamp of the defamatory article. The screen fills with numbers that speak more clearly than any words. Evelyn looks back to the room. "There will be no further questions," she says. "You have all the proof you need. Let the public decide who they wish to believe." The session ends, but the noise outside multiplies. By the time we reach the street, a small crowd has gathered. Microphones stretch over barriers, shouts for comment bounce off the glass. Walter shields Evelyn with his arm as Thomas opens the car. The reporters follow for a few steps until security holds the line. Inside the sedan, Evelyn leans back, eyes closed. The city moves past the window in streaks of silver. My phone buzzes nonstop on my lap. I glance at the screen, hundreds of notifications, hashtags stacking on each other. Crawford Truth, Naushad Marissa Hale, and the one already climbing higher. Justice for Evelyn. Walter's phone rings and he answers without greeting. "Yes?" he says, listening. "Yes, we saw it. Already over 500,000 views. It's being clipped for television. Good. Keep the original upload pinned." He hangs up and turns to us. "It's gone viral. Every outlet is replaying her outburst. Legal analysts are already calling it self-incriminating. They just torpedoed their own contest." Evelyn opens her eyes and smiles faintly. "Let them," she says. "They always mistook volume for power." We pass through downtown where screens above the sidewalks replay snippets of the conference, my voice stitched between captions. The caption under Victoria's freeze frame reads, "We earned that money raising her. I can't look away." The world has turned itself inside out, and for once the truth didn't get buried under polish. Thomas drives in silence until the car reaches the private entrance of the estate. Cameras wait beyond the gate, now a handful of vans already parked by the road. Security closes it behind us. Evelyn watches through the rear window as the gate seals. "They will shout themselves hoarse by evening," she says. "By morning they will start to rewrite the story, but the record is already made." Inside, Walter sets his briefcase on the console table. "I'll prepare filings to include the defamation in the claim," he says. "And the court will take notice of the TRO violation. We might get an expedited hearing out of it." Evelyn nods. "Schedule it for early next quarter. I want to see this finished before I go." I say, "She won't stop, will she?" Walter looks at me with a small, weary sympathy. "She can't. People who believe they own a story never stop talking until someone shows them the transcript." Evelyn smiles, slow and deliberate. "And we just did." Later that night, I stand again at the window that faces the lake. Across the water, the city glows with the heat of 1,000 screens replaying one moment. The comment feed on my phone scrolls faster than I can read some cruel, most kind all witnesses to something they cannot undo. I close the phone and let it rest. Downstairs, I hear Evelyn's voice, faint but steady, giving Thomas instructions for tomorrow. There is relief in her tone, the relief of someone who finally laid down a truth too heavy to carry alone. The headlines will twist and turn, I know that. But the raw footage is everywhere now, in mirrors of mirrors, copied and saved. For the first time, the version that lives in public looks like what actually happened. The air outside smells like rain coming, and the faint thrum of traffic sounds almost like applause. I draw the curtain closed, half expecting the noise to follow me, but it stays on the other side, busy devouring the story it finally got right. Chapter 5. Courtroom and Closure. The first morning of the hearing breaks cold and clear sunlight glancing off the courthouse steps like the city wants to start clean. King County Superior Court looks both massive and tired, a building that has seen every version of truth there is. Walter meets me at the entrance, his coat buttoned, his briefcase locked tight enough to feel like a weapon. Inside, the corridors smell like paper and anticipation. Evelyn is not here. She is at home, too weak now to travel, but she asked to be called the moment it ends. The courtroom is packed. Reporters have been barred, but curiosity fills the air anyway. Patricia sits at the defendant's table beside Gregory, their hands close but not touching. Kenneth looks smaller than I remember, hair too neat, suit a size too big. Victoria sits farthest down, restless eyes darting toward the exit every few minutes. Their attorney, a slick man in a charcoal suit, flips through a folder like he is looking for a miracle. Judge Morrison enters, silver hair and a tight bun expression that can cut steel. We rise, then sit. She adjusts her glasses and looks at the defense table first. "Counsel," she says, "I have reviewed your late submission. You may proceed." The defense lawyer stands. "Your Honor, we are submitting an expert psychological evaluation suggesting diminished capacity in Ms. Evelyn Crawford at the time of her will execution. The report indicates possible early dementia impairing her judgment." Walter rises slowly. "Your Honor, that report is falsified. It bears the name of Dr. Leonard Marks, who has provided a sworn statement that he never met Ms. Crawford. We will enter both the false report and Dr. Marks's affidavit into evidence to illustrate the extent of the respondent's deception." The judge's eyes narrow. "Proceed, Mr. Green." Walter steps forward and plays the capacity video. Evelyn fills the screen, poised, articulate, answering Dr. Hines' questions with sharp precision. When the recording ends, he holds up the doctor's written confirmation of her competence. Dr. Hines evaluated Ms. Crawford under oath on camera 1 week before the execution of the trust. 3 witnesses, a notary, and myself were present. Ms. Crawford demonstrated full awareness of her estate, her beneficiaries, and the implications of her decisions. She remains, as the record will show, the sharpest person in any room she enters. Judge Morrison looks directly at the defense. "She's sharper than anyone in this courtroom," she says, and the murmur that follows feels like air returning to lungs. Walter continues, "Additionally, Your Honor, we submit the financial documentation previously presented to this court, tracing $800,000 from the Hale Family Trust to accounts controlled by Gregory and Patricia Crawford. These funds were used to purchase luxury assets and cover private tuition for Kenneth Crawford, who knowingly accepted payments from the misappropriated trust. His signature appears on a repayment deferral form acknowledging the source. He benefited in silence." The defense attorney objects weakly, citing irrelevance, but the judge waves him off. "Overruled," she says. "Continue." Walter finishes with the transfer receipts, the invoices, and the evidence of defamation. "Your Honor, these respondents did not simply mishandle money. They exploited a child, silenced her for decades, and when confronted, they fabricated evidence to preserve the illusion of innocence. Justice delayed is not justice denied. We ask the court to uphold Ms. Crawford's trust and order restitution with interest." The defense lawyer stammers through a rebuttal about family loyalty and misunderstanding. Patricia dabs her eyes. Gregory stares at the table. Kenneth stares at nothing, and Victoria stares at me, like she could still reverse time by glaring hard enough. When it's over, Judge Morrison leans forward. Her tone is even measured, absolute. "The evidence is overwhelming. Ms. Evelyn Crawford was of sound mind and deliberate intent when she executed her will and trust. The documentation of financial abuse against Ms. Hale is extensive and credible. Therefore, this court upholds the current trust and will as legally binding. The respondents, Gregory and Patricia Crawford, are ordered to pay restitution in the amount of $2.6 million, inclusive of interest. This court also notes that the matter of potential criminal fraud will be referred to the district attorney for review. That decision rests with their office, not this bench. But let the record show this family's actions are unconscionable." The gavel strikes once, a sound that feels final enough to move the air. Victoria shouts that it isn't over, that they'll appeal, but the bailiff is already between her and the table. Kenneth keeps his head down. Patricia sobs into her sleeve. Gregory mutters something about injustice, but no one listens. Walter exhales a small, invisible victory. He turns to me and whispers, "It's done." When we step outside, the light feels too bright. The air smells like wet concrete and release. My phone buzzes with a call from Thomas. His voice is gentle. "She's resting," he says. "I'll tell her it went our way." 2 weeks later, Evelyn slips away in her sleep. No monitors, no drama, just the quiet exit of someone who finished what she came to do. The funeral is small, private. Walter reads her favorite passage from a book of letters she kept on her nightstand. When it ends, he places a single lilac on the casket and says, "Justice served." Months pass like rain turning to rhythm. The trust settles. The foundation grows. By the next spring, the estate feels different lighter. The court orders are executed in full. Patricia and Gregory sell their house and vanish from Seattle. Kenneth takes a job far from banking. Victoria disappears from social media entirely. 1 year later, May 2025, I walk into Belmont's again. The chandeliers are the same, but the sound in the room is softer now. A young waiter recognizes me and hesitates before approaching. "Are you Ms. Hale?" he asks quietly. I nod. He smiles, small but sincere. "Dinner's on the house tonight, we all saw." For a moment, I can't speak. I just nod again and take the same seat where everything began. The tablecloth is new, the light the same gold as that night, but the air is free of weight. I order a glass of water and sit there long enough for the world to tilt back into balance. When I leave, Walter is waiting outside. He holds a sealed envelope, the Crawford estate crest pressed into the wax. "Evelyn left this for you," he says. "She instructed me to deliver it 1 year after the final ruling." "What's inside?" He smiles, a little sad, a little proud. Her last instruction said simply, "To be opened when you're ready to see the rest of the truth." I take the envelope, feeling the weight of it heavier than paper, lighter than grief. The car door closes behind me, and through the window, I see Belmont's fade into the distance. Somewhere beyond the reflection of the glass, Evelyn's voice lingers calm and sure. The letter waits on my lap, the wax seal catching the streetlight as we turn toward the lake. I don't open it. Not yet. Some truths deserve to arrive on their own time. If you have ever faced family financial abuse or felt powerless against injustice, there are places that can help. Resources are listed in the description below. And if you want to know what Evelyn still had to tell me, stay close. The story isn't over. The letter will change everything.